know it's the week, St. Patty's Day, St. Joseph's Day, NCAA. We're just going to drink through this show, if that's okay with you.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
So executive producer Lexi Chris made a decision that she's initiating a politics and a pint type of Friday night episode here. So, you know, I've got the Guinness. Now, I don't even think we asked the boss if this is okay. So we're just going to fly by the seat of our pants, maybe sip one or two. But heck, you know, but one of my guests has the Guinness tie on. We record our Friday shows on Thursday afternoon. Yesterday we had Gary Sass on. For me, as you're watching this, it was yesterday. For me, it was 5 minutes ago. And he had a lot of things to say. Gary Sass from Bryant University and the co-chair of the Rubio campaign. He had some pretty provocative things to say about the state Republican Party, Republican politics, what could and could not happen based on Trump's success or lack thereof. And so it's only synergistic that we finish a week where we've talked to a lot of the chairs of campaigns to talk to the chairman of the state Republican Party. Now, I should say that we invited both the chairs of the state and Democratic Party, and Joe McNamara decided that he's the Democratic chair. I don't know, ever since we threw Brandon Bell into the mix, we couldn't find him under a desk anywhere. So hopefully this program reflects multi-perspectives, and I would hope that at this stage of the game that we can have party chairs talking to each other and having some fun, because I'm here long enough to know in the old days, we used to be able to do that around here. And that's kind of a serious remark. But we're going to start with Trump and Trump and Trump and Trump, because it's all Trump, 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 Trump. And of course, he's no stranger. You've seen him before, right?
Paul Ryan called me the other day, tremendous call. I spoke with Mitch McConnell today. We had a great conversation. The fact is, we have to bring our party together. We have to bring it together.
And Bob Cusack is here as well. He's on the board of the state Republican Party. And what is a we haven't even started yet. Whale Rock Point Partners. You're a financial guy, right?
Yes, money manager.
Money manager. Welcome. Nice to see you. You've been engaged in local politics for a while, and which means you care about your community. It's not like some weird avocation. Mr. Chairman, good to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You got the Guinness tie on?
Genuine Guinness tie. My daughter brought it back from Ireland.
Yeah. Well, I like the Friday programs because we don't do the rundown and we get right into some issues. And yeah, I mean, listen, as we speak, the half of downtown is upside down anyway. You know, so Brandon's had one.
Salute.
And believe me, it's allowed after midnight. You know, so what can I tell you? But I like the idea. Believe me, by next week it'll be sponsored. You know, there'll be no grass growing under this place's thoughts. Trump means what to you?
He could be our nominee. He's brought out an anger. He's brought out. He didn't start off by saying that he's going to stop the capital gains tax or lower it. He talked about illegal immigration. It's on a lot of our minds. He's talking about things that have not been talked about for a long time, and he's not our presumptive nominee, though. He may face a long haul.
Good or bad
here.
for the party? Good or bad for the party?
I don't think he's bad for the party. I think anything he says that's bombastic rhetoric, anything he said that I certainly have disagreed with much of what he said, I think is bad for him. As far as I'm concerned, as chairman of this party, I represent a diverse group of people with a diverse group of views, and I have my own personal views, of course, but I'm not here to say that Trump is bad for the party. I think I will undoubtedly support him if he's our nominee.
What do you think?
Well, he's very disruptive and non-traditional. And when we talk about Republican values and typical policies, you know, limited government, low taxes, you know, good government. He's not in a traditional sense a Republican. So that's what's surprising. Plus, you know, the elites really detest him. Even the Wall Street. He's talked about, for example, I'll give you an example. Biotech stocks are down over 30% since Hillary sent out a tweet in late September, and then again further down after they recovered a little bit in the first quarter, because Donald Trump started talking about negotiating and getting prices down for drugs and therapies. So this has all kinds of typical.
Why is that a problem?
It's different because typically Republicans are more big business oriented. They're friends of Wall Street. He's not at all, and some of his followers really like the fact that he's a builder. He builds buildings. He's not a paper shuffler in that sense. So he's very different. and we're all getting an education.
And I'd say, along that line, what Bob's just said is that he's the antithesis of Barack Obama. And let's be realistic, Dan. I mean, he's a successful billionaire. He was not a community organizer. He's the antithesis of Barack Obama. Barack Obama has been an unmitigated failure for the last 7+ years now. So I think people are attracted to that populist movement in and of itself because we were promised hope and change, and we didn't get very much of that. So I think that automatically he has an advantage in that regard, and that's a disadvantage to Hillary because Hillary is running on Obama's record, and she's the most dishonest and untrustworthy person that I can think of in politics.
Which is why Joe McNamara should show up, so that you can say, no, that's not true.
I feel like he's probably at a calamari bar right now. I'm not really sure. But, I have no control over Trump.
That was his bill.
Yeah.
He did make it the official state, fish? Was that what it was? Or the appetizer?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Chairman
Anyway,
Squid, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
You're baiting him. Geez, a couple of sips of Guinness and we're off and running here. Holy moly.
He didn't show up a couple weeks ago on Live Experiment.
But here's what's interesting to me. What is this going to mean to Republican Party politics in Rhode Island? I have joked and cajoled and ridiculed and tried to motivate the Republican Party over the length of time. I know that my picture's on a wall with a dartboard most of the time with the Republicans, only because I've tried to find a way to inspire them or beat them into the submission over getting some balance in this state. Gary Sass yesterday told me that he thought that this Trump candidacy would actually have a lower voter Republican turnout based on the idea that a lot of people aren't going to vote for Hillary, but they may not find Trump palatable. What do you think?
I think it's generally expected that the turnout is going to be lower.
Yeah, in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we've got a primary in April, and it's way too late. We feel like an outlier in a lot of ways. Although this thing may come down, there's a few delegates here. How many do we have?
We have 16 that are elected, and then there are 3 that are automatic delegates. I will not call them super delegates because myself, Steve Frias, is National Committee.
Because of your roles.
And our roles.
Yeah.
But we're also bound on the first ballot as our state votes, proportionally. So we are not super delegates. We do it much more democratically than they do it over there on the Democrat side.
And then rethinking, and I retract my statement, because in April, every delegate's going to count, seems to me, as we head down toward June. Contested convention, yes or no?
Yes. Open convention.
Think so?
I do.
Basis?
I think Cruz and some of the states that are coming up between Cruz and Cusack, I think they're going to split the vote. There's these winner-take-alls they're modified winner-take-alls. I think it's going to be very, very difficult. What does he need, 56% or 57%? It's all about delegate math. And he needs 1237. I know you've talked about that probably for weeks now. He needs 1237 to get the majority, and plurality doesn't do it. And this is not new. This is what bothers me. I keep hearing this is like they're going to take it away. They're going to take it away. No, what's going to happen is what happened with Abe Lincoln, 150 years ago, where he got elected on the 3rd ballot. So something like that is very possible.
Well, it points to, and Bob, jump in when you want to, but it points to something that I mentioned to Gary, and I think the country and both party establishments have done a horrendous job of doing, and that is re-educating people on the process. Too many people think that the primary process is one person, one vote, as it is in November. It's not. Between the caucuses and the actual primary elections, the nuances and the delegate counts being different in each state, the rules of the party convention, and the idea that delegates can actually, even though the state mandates, at one point a delegate can turn and fly and go in another direction. People don't understand that the corporations known as Democrats and Republicans choose nominees, but because they don't know, if Trump is crawling close and he's talking about riots because he's got everybody up in arms, you're going to have a serious problem, meaning us, the country's going to have a serious problem on its hands because we have an uninformed electorate who doesn't understand how this thing works. Yes?
Absolutely. And
You better do something in the state, really.
I'll be in Cleveland, so I'm a little worried. My wife doesn't want to go anymore.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be Cleveland. It's going to be across the country. People are going to be very upset. And we've got a lot of learning to do between now and then, right? About what the process actually is.
We're doing something at the RIGOP in educating people on the ballot and what it means to elect delegates. I think a lot of people, this is akin to people not understanding the Electoral College. You know, people don't understand the popular vote versus the Electoral College, and, you know, even though that might be basic civics. And I think we just need to do some educating. I think the RNC has an obligation to do some educating. And we've had conversations at the RNC, the 168 members there, about this, and we'll be meeting in a month to talk more.
But you know, before you get to the Rules Committee and all kinds of machinations and various strategies there, you go through these primaries, and the next bunch of primaries are mostly winner take most. And if Cusack stays in, the way the arithmetic works, by the way, there's a great infographic with a sliding scale. You can grab your mouse and go back and forth in the New York Times this morning. You know, move Trump up to 47, 48, what happens to the total? And he gets there. This is more likely than I've read recently that he gets there. So this could be very interesting. And then it becomes a Rules Committee, you know, strategies about, well, certain delegates under a certain RNC rule, which are from states with open primaries, like we have here, where independents, for unaffiliated, we call them in Rhode Island, can vote. Those guys are not, they're not even certified. They're not recognized. Whoa, are you kidding? So that could be.
Yeah, let me tell you something. If he gets to 1237, before and they start playing around with all hell's going to break loose. If he's 50, 60, 70 short, different story. But if he gets to that number that everyone's been focused on, oh lordy loo. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Rhode Island issues of the day. There are a few. Stay with us.
Now, it turns out that rebuilding roads and bridges takes money. I wish it didn't. I wish you could eat cake and lose weight. But you can't. You can't. That's true, you can't. It turns out it's disappointing. It is disappointing. We need money to rebuild our roads and bridges.
Well, I was Governor Raimondo a while back on the tolls, and of course Brandon Bell, one of my guests, Bob Cusack is here as well, kind of a party brass guy himself, but Brandon is the chair. Here is Brandon's headline. He wrote an op-ed over the whole truck toll situation. Give me your executive summary on what you think has happened here with the truck toll deal.
This is a huge issue for us. I think it started this year. Well, we know the first proposal that came out last May was just horrible, and it just got worse. People say it got better. I think it got worse because there's more bipartisan opposition to it at this point in time. We started the year with a big election in Senate District 11 with John Pagliarini, who had three issues against an establishment name ID guy in Portsmouth. No tolls, no tolls, no tolls. And he won on that issue. And the newer bill was just jammed down Rhode Islanders' throats in 13 days. In February, as we know, February 11th or 12th. And it's a big issue for us. We're going to ride it right to November. We're not going to let people forget about it. And
before I ask you about the politics of it and what's going to happen going forward, do you have a take on it?
I was on the previous governor's Blue Ribbon panel studying the infrastructure needs and financing of those needs. And this was 7 or 8 years ago. And it's a huge need, we all acknowledge. The controversy is about how to pay for it. And at that time, we recommended tolls. At that time, we were talking about tolls on everything down, at the Connecticut border, and we weren't allowed to do that by the federal government. But so I'm not an anti-toll guy. I mean, I was on that panel. I signed up for that. The party has come out the other way, and I'll tell you, it is that Senate district election shows that it's a very, very volatile issue. Voters don't like tolls.
Well, on the East Bay, what happened with the Saconic River Bridge had the toll became a dirty word. So that may have had a play. I'm not so sure from a zero-based point of view in other districts whether it would have had the same kind of resonance, because one of the things I was concerned about is that people weren't paying enough attention to this whole thing until the last minute. I don't judge radio phone lines as the ultimate indicator of the pulse of the people, right? But there's something going on here, something big going on here. And for Nick Mattiello to literally be almost ridiculing the plan, quietly for months and months and months, and all of a sudden to do a 180 like he did, something's going on here. There might be a series of gives, I'm not sure. But when he actually was able to embrace the plan literally as his own, it's when everybody fell in line in the General Assembly. And some of the toughest stuff we've seen, definitely in his tenure, but from speakerships in the recent history, was going on, threats, cajoling, all that kind of thing. So what happens? It seems to me that the Republican Party is going to go through the same nonsense, which is, this is the issue that's going to turn it all around, and we're going to take back the State House, and you're going to get 3 seats. I think you go after the snake, you go after the head, and you go after the Speaker himself in his district. Can you get that done?
That's what we're working on. I fully agree with you on that. He showed more specifically than ever before the bully-style politics that is mortgaging our future. And to the extent that he, the most obvious example, of course, was taking 3 Democrats off of committee positions almost immediately to say, you agree with me or you're out. That's called a dictatorship. So
it's not a dictatorship. It's the way politics works. It's just, it may be the politics that people are pushing back against with Trump. I don't know. I don't know if there's a connection there. It's the way politics has always worked. It's about power. It's not necessarily about that. But the point here is that he flipped. We don't know. The transparency's not there. And while I've always liked Nick personally, he's turned into a semi-monster in that Speaker's position. Can you go get him in his district?
Absolutely, we can get him in his district. The Speaker said from the rostrum, I've heard of no opposition. You've got Representative Marcello, who obviously was the Speaker's foe at one point to become Speaker after Gordon Fox was taken down, saying that in Scituate, which is right across the street from Western Cranston, I think there's one house on one side of the district that's 15 and one is 41, saying that I've heard nothing but opposition to this toll plan. I think the Speaker has completely lost touch. He's tone deaf. He's lost touch with the issues. People are voting with leadership, with insiders in this particular instance, and many others. And I think that I think that taking him out is absolutely crucial. Very not just symbolic, but important to pick up other seats in the House. And it's got to be done. And maybe it's a matter of the institution itself. And I know John Marion wrote a piece about that recently, about the institution of the speakership, and I hope that the Senate, I know that John Pagliarini has brought back a little speech and debate over there. It's not just a rubber stamp chamber anymore, the upper chamber. So I do believe that he's extraordinarily vulnerable, and that's why he's showing up at town meetings all over the state to justify what was just done. And he's bringing Director Alviti with him, and he's trying to provide cover for his a lot of his
versus
rank and file.
Versus that process before a vote, which I thought would be the best thing to do. When we come back, we're talking about 38 Studios, which I want to get Bob's take on that, since he's in the financial world and how people are reacting to that. And then we'll rough up the chairman, because I think they've missed the broad side of the barn. Stay with us.
It morphed into a pretty long-term investigation with the Attorney General's office. The U.S. Attorney looked at a small piece of that. We meet all the time on it. It's not something that we don't pay attention to. It's there. I won't tell you what the end game was. That wouldn't be fair, because tomorrow or the next day I'll be getting inquiries from everybody from around the country about it.
That is Colonel O'Donnell, who was on the program within the last week or so, actually on March 7th, discussing the nature of the 38 Studios investigation. Bob, you're a financial guy. What's your take on the debacle that $75 million put, $100 million liability is for the people?
I mean, it's such a long story. We've been through this all.
But when I say 38, you say what?
I say failed concept, flawed concept from its incipiency. In other words, it was a venture cap investment that you gave a loan to, and it had no revenue. Why would you do that? It should have been equity. It should have been risk shared by investors that understood it. Instead, it was an insured and moral by the state loan. Crazy. Of course, it wasn't going to be. It was going to be in trouble, because it wasn't going to be revenue. It was going to be revenue positive in time. And now we find out that it wasn't going to. It was going to fail anyway, because it wasn't going to be fully funded. And we find that out from depositions and all. And the SEC weighs in, and they come in. So
You didn't need to find out from depositions. I don't mean to quarrel with you, but all you had to do was look at the pro forma when it came out in the plan, which held more than $20 million in reserve. I try to explain to people it's like buying a house for $300,000 and borrowing $4 million, which a bank would never give you, which is why the whole plan was stupid. But you borrow $4 million to be able to pay off the principal and interest on the $3 million. So you have that's how upside down this thing was from the get-go. But Curt Schilling was never going to get the $75 million. He didn't know he wasn't going to get the $75 million. But all he had to do was read the prospectus. Once he was in there, he should have known. And then when he found out, it was like, oh, tax credits, don't worry about it. And blah, 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 blah. Look, the thing that was awful about this is that the legislature never took responsibility for the stealth vote that happened that authorized this whole thing. And the politics and whatever else is behind it has been the thing that's cracked me up and killed me over this point. The state Republican Party had an opportunity in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and now in 2016 to stand on its head and demand accountability with the right kind of oversight hearings, even today, and you still haven't done it. Why?
I have, and I think we had this argument once on the radio show. You're not
Your
in my press release.
your representative should have walked off the oversight committee for the folly and the nonsense that it was. It's never held the case accountable the way it should have. You guys should have you pulled down your pants, hung a moon to the state of Rhode Island, and said, we're not going to watch this charade orchestrated by the guy you want to take out in Cranston, the Speaker of the House.
We called for an independent investigation because we thought, at first we thought that the Oversight Committee could actually do a job like they do in Washington and actually take testimony and call people in. But the right people, the Speaker included, who was part of leadership back then, should be called, should have had taken their right hand and testified as to exactly what was going on. None of this nonsense about there's a lawsuit going on, so this one can't testify. There's this going on, so this one can't testify. They should have taken a more active role. I give Chairwoman Macbeth credit for doing what she did, trying to do what she did. I understand it was a very difficult task.
I don't know why Republicans sat on that committee and let that exercise go. You should have left it and said, you know what? This is stinking from high heaven. She's doing the best she can, but it stinks from high heaven. We won't participate in this farce. That would have sent a message to the state, wow, maybe there's something dirty in Denmark here. And you still have that opportunity not to participate in the folly that it is. The governor promised in the election that she would do. She didn't. You ought to be campaigning outside her door over that. I think, look, if you guys are looking to make some traction and take advantage of this disconnect that people feel, this is the one, and I just think you guys have been hitting singles at best.
But it goes into, for me anyway, it goes into a larger category, which is the good government category, the ethics oversight, and it falls under. It's a huge Roman numeral under it, which is 38 Studios. Because you think of 38 Studios, you think of failed ethics.
You think that this is all going to resonate in September between the truck tolls and 38 Studios? Do you feel like it will?
I think if it's brought if it's brought to bear by people on the ground walking districts and going door to door, it could.
It's all about the candidates, people who are dedicated, courageous, prepared, and we're trying to do that. It's all about what happens at the polls. I don't care about getting any credit for this, but at the end of the day, it's what happens on November 8th and whether or not we can win elections as a result of these issues. And I think that we will.
Who's your presidential candidate?
I am neutral as the chairman of the party, because on the second ballot, I'll be in Cleveland.
Dan, I'm sorry, I'm one of those late deciders.
We even try to get him drunk when we can get the answers. It's good to see you guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Dan.
Final word when we come back. Stay with us. Two things. I found out tonight that I click my pen a lot. So that's not going to happen anymore. It took Jess to say, would you stop clicking your pen? I asked Lexi, do I click? Oh, you click your pen all the time. Have I been bothering you? I will not click my pen anymore. I promise. I promise. Secondly, a guy that, knock it off. There's a guy I've been wanting to have on, Dr. Charles Steinberg, who's the new face of the Paw Sox, will be here Monday night. And if you think I gave Brandon Bell a hard time, be here Monday night, because I'm not buying their act. We'll see you then.